My name is Lee Tucker, and I am the chair of the Cleveland chapter of League of Women Voters. Welcome to the League of Women Voters 4th Ward 4 Council Candidate Forum. We are co-sponsoring this event along with Reclaim Ward 4, Concerned Citizens Community Council, Neighborhood Up, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Zeta Phi Beta. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, which means we do not support candidates or political parties. We encourage and we work to increase the understanding of major public policy issues. It is League policy to ask that no one display campaign buttons, signs, or literature other than the literature that's at the table within this room. So make sure that you take candidate literature on your way out. So I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. In fairness to the audience, candidates, and moderators, we ask the audience to observe the following rules. Turn off or mute all cell phones. Refrain from applauding or in other ways demonstrating support or non-support for a candidate. There is to be no taping of the forum by audience members. Unauthorized videos are not allowed, and all candidates will be required to adhere to strict timelines. We have timekeepers that's sitting up front. They will hold up signs to indicate how much time each of the candidates has, so just be cognizant of that. I'm one of the question screeners, and the other question screener is our planning committee chair, Michelle, and Adriana as well. We'll all be collecting questions. So if you have questions, just raise your hand if you don't have any additional cards, and we'll collect them throughout. Questions that were asked in advance, they have already been given to the moderator, so don't think that because you submitted questions online that we are not cognizant of your questions, because we are. I'd like to thank the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha for allowing us to use this facility for the event. A couple other items. On the slideshow that you'll see, there are 11 candidates that's listed. 2 of the candidates declined our RSVP, but in fairness to them, they're still council candidates. We also allowed anyone who didn't RSVP to submit a statement, so we didn't get any additional statements from the candidates. So all the candidates here are who you'll be hearing from. There will be no additional information. So let's just get started now. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. One more item of note before I introduce the moderators. Due to the number of candidates, all questions will not be asked of all candidates. We did run random number sampling, so one question might be asked of 3 candidates, it might be asked of 5 or 4 candidates. Now, if the audience has a direct question, that question may particularly be asked to one candidate, or if the audience wants us to ask it to all candidates, then that's when we'll ask all candidates. But other than that, due to time limits, we will not be able to ask all candidates all questions. Again, this is a forum, it's not a debate. So there was not back and forth between the candidates. You may want to respond to something that someone says, but unfortunately we don't have time for that. So just as a update to the audience, that's why it's not a debate. Our moderators are Chanell, Elston, and Erika Brown. Raise your hands, they're in the middle. They will take your questions that once we screen them, and then we will present them, and then they will ask the questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You guys hear me?
No.
What about now? Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. As Lee stated, my name is Chanell Elston. I'm a member of the Greater Cleveland League of Women Voters, and I'm going to be one of the moderators for this evening. Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erika Brown. I'm a Ward 4 resident and also a member of Neighbor Up.
So we are going to review, before we get started with the questions, the forum rules, just so that everybody understands the expectations for today's forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement after a question and answer session. Time limits will be strictly enforced. Our timers, who are sitting up front, will give candidates a 30-second warning and a signal when your time has ended. We will give you an opportunity if you are in the middle of a thought to finish it, but you will not be able to start a new thought. So when the time ends, the time ends.
Okay, and as we said earlier, the order of speaking is determined by drawing lots. So everyone might not get to answer every question, but in the beginning, the candidate who makes the first opening statement will then make the last closing statement.
Only written questions will be accepted. Cards for writing questions, as we stated, will be distributed to the audience before and during the forum. Please write your questions down and provide them to the ushers so that they can provide them to the moderators. And candidates will have 1 minute to answer these questions.
Screeners will review submitted questions in order to avoid duplication, to provide a diversity of questions, and to ensure readability, and to avoid inappropriate or irrelevant questions. Thank you.
In order to maximize the time for candidates, as we stated, we will ask the audience to avoid expressions of support or opposition to any statement, any candidate.
And again, to repeat what they said, this is a forum to hear and question the candidates. It has not been planned as a debate between opposing candidates. And now's the time to move into our opening statements. Again, the assistance of the timekeepers, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement. And we will start at this end of this table with Mr. Ekechukwu.
Is this all? Well, thank you guys so much. First things first, I want to thank everyone that was involved in bringing this event today to fruition. I also want to thank the residents of Ward 4 for coming out on such an important day, rain or shine. My name is Cecil Ekechukwu. In 2017, when we ran for city council, we made history as the youngest candidate to run for such a position in the great city of Cleveland. Today I stand before you, God willing, at 28 years of life, still the youngest candidate in this election, but also the most qualified and the most experienced. In 2016, I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in environmental engineering. Then I worked with the Texas EPA and the Ohio EPA to work for certain air quality standards that we are seeing today. I also worked for the St. Casito Foundation, which is a community development corporation, as the executive director. And then I also went to co-own Nora's Home Healthcare and Axel Rock Restaurant and Lounge. And months from now, I'll have earned my Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the Northeast Ohio Medical University. These experiences and qualifications are what I believe will help me to deal with the health disparities we are seeing in Ward 4 and the great city of Cleveland, to make sure that Cleveland is a green city and a shelter city as well, and to also deal with the infant mortality we are seeing and the safety issues we are seeing in our community. I thank you all so much, and I look forward to a respectful discourse with everyone here.
Ms. Evans?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ashley R. Evans. I'm running for city council, as you all know. I am a third generation resident of Ward 4. Both sets of my grandparents bought homes here to raise their children. And fortunately, their grandchildren were also raised in this neighborhood. I am here because they set a foundation, and that foundation needs to be protected. So I look forward to being that council person that has the energy, the experience, the intellect to be able to move this district forward. Thank you.
And next, Ms. Gray?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Precinct Councilwoman Deborah Gray. I have lived in Ward 4 for 25 years. I have raised my children here. I have bought my home here. I also was a Buckeye ambassador for Bertie Bell Carr. I also sat on the St. Louis Foundation for the RAC Committee board. I also am a concerned citizen member and a block club president. I am the only Democratic woman and proven Democrat on this ticket. I have been endorsed by the Cuyahoga Democratic Women Caucus and Stonewall Dems. I have a proven record to move this ward forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to thank the panel for extending the invitation for me to participate in this event today. My name is Roland Mitchell. I'm a lifelong Ward 4 resident. I've lived in the ward since I was school age. My entire employment career has been within the city of Cleveland. I retired from the Cleveland Police Department as a detective. I ran for office in 2017. I was endorsed by the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and I came in at third position. I'm running in this election because our ward is in need of effective leadership. I've always worked in service to the people, and I would like to continue by becoming the next councilman of Ward 4. Thank you.
Mr. Shomo?
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for attending and having this. My name is Mike Shomo. I'm a longtime resident of Ward 4. I've been in the Buckeye area. I've been here for a long time, and I'm running to build a better Ward 4, economically, socially, and physically. I want to build 272 new homes in here because on my street alone, there's 27 vacant lots. So I said there had to be 9 more streets like mine, and there's more than 9. So we need to build this up. I've got 40 years of management experience working for some of the largest service companies, Aramark, Qualifications, Compass, and Sodexo, which has 500,000 people, which has more employees than Cleveland itself have residents. We can get this done. I have a plan, and I'm the only candidate that has a detailed plan. And I don't expect people to listen to it now, but on my website that'll be up in 1st of August, you'll see everything that has been outlined on my literature that we can do. We have 75% pregnancy rate in our ward, which is hard in any place. Cleveland is 52 or 54%, and that should scare us, because that's from 15 to 19 years old. That should really scare us. We have to do something to curb this. And I have the experience in political, and I have statewide, local, and government backing. So, I'm a man that can get the job done. Thank you.
Mr. Shurn?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Shurn. I'm a lifelong resident of Ward 4 as well. I'm not going to go into my educational background, and I'm an activist. I'm grassroots. I'm out in these streets. I'm part of an organization called the Peacemakers, where we go out and we make our community a decent and safe place to live. So I'm out there with the young men. I got a program where we worked with Mr. Knight, where we got young men off the street to teach them well. I'm talking about action. I'm also working with Hoops Up, Guns Down, working with the youth. Also, I believe a lot of times our citizens are tired of politicians giving them eloquent speeches with empty solutions. Our people are in dire need. Our people need to be resuscitated back to life. And I have an aggressive plan. And my slogan is to make Ward 4 safe again, because I had some personal experience with family members being gunned down. And there was no action taken with the public, the current administrations. And when we talk about relationships, we gotta be able to relate with the police. So we gotta build that relationship with the police so we can make our community safe. Then we can begin to talk about economics in our community. But right now, you can't have an economic development program when our children are hearing gunshots every day, people dying at an alarming rate. So we need somebody that's gonna take action and not just give you recommendations or what their qualifications are.
Thank you, Mr. Shurn.
Thank you.
Mr. Snowden?
Good afternoon, everyone, and hello. My name is Mario Snowden. I want to first thank you and thank everyone who came in attendance and everyone that's live streaming right now. I'm a lifetime resident of Ward 4. My grandparents were raised here. I believe that when we look at experience, when we look at what our residents need, it goes far beyond what we can put on paper. Career-wise, after I graduated from the University of Akron, I worked with juvenile probations in Summit County. I was an administrative assistant with Akron Police Department. I'm entering my 5th year with Cleveland Metro School District as a Dean of Engagement. But I believe that our community needs a little bit more than just these qualifications. Our community needs someone who can inspire our youth. My platform is to secure, rebuild, and inspire. We have to inspire our youth to secure their future for the sake of us and for their future. We have to inspire our senior citizens so that they can rebuild the fellowship and community that brought our neighborhoods together. And we have to inspire our adults to secure a safer community so that we can have a better future. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
Hey everybody, this is so exciting to see that everybody is here exercising their democratic process to come out and vote. I was just telling Mario how exciting it is to have everybody, coming out and having this forum for us to see who's the best candidate to lead us forward. My name is Erick Walker. I've been living in Ward 4 since I was 12 years old. I live on 140th and Kinsman. I've been living there. My big sister and she, along with my mother, bought a house there. And so in 2017, my mom passed away. And so I moved back into the house that I grew up in. Prior to that, I lived across the street from Dewey's coffee shop, which is now Bixby's. And I lived there for like 13 years. So I've been in the ward for a long time. I presently work for Cleveland Public Library. In September, I've been there for 27 years. I've worked there in government documents since 2008 now. And so I have been a long time employee of Cleveland. I attended, I am a veteran of the United States Army Reserves. I served 8 years, was deployed in 1992 under Clinton into Germany for Operation Joint Endeavor during the Bosnia conflict. I am a member of SEIU, where I currently serve as an executive board member there right now. I have been endorsed by SEIU as well as a Better Cleveland for All. I believe that in order to get our ward back and moving forward, that we're going to have to do things just like this and exercise our power, making sure that we're registering voters and making sure that we're going out to vote, not just for candidates like this, but for congressional as well. So I thank you for coming out. I am very excited about this.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Willis?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Craig Willis, and first I'd like to thank everyone who's here today and all of you who put this together, this forum. And I also want to thank the fine residents of Ward 4, hundreds of them who signed my nominating petition, which allowed me to be here today. And Eric, I want to first also thank you for your service. to your country. In the early 1960s, there was a program called Model Cities. Cleveland Now. My grandmother lived in the Buckeye neighborhood. My grandmother owned not one, but 2 houses. Model Cities came along, and they said, we got to clean this area out. So they took her back house, where she lived, so then she moved to the front house. And then they came along and said, we got to clean this neighborhood out. But before they decided to clean the neighborhood out, they decided to put in a new street. And when they put in a new street, the new street was about 2.5 to 3 feet lower than the existing street. And so you could no longer get a Ford Falcon or anything else in my grandmother's driveway. So that was a taking. And since then, I have been determined to work on behalf of the city of Cleveland to make it better. That's why I went to Princeton University. I majored in urban affairs. I went to law school. I studied constitutional law. I have practiced and have been involved in government. I have more than 30 years of government service as an official and as a public servant.
Thank you.
I just wanted to remind everyone, please silence your phones. Please silence your phones. And please keep in mind, regardless to if you are in support or opposition to anything that the candidates say, please keep your comments and remarks to yourself. So our next question is going to go to all of the candidates. We're going to start with Mr. Willis first. What is your opinion about council persons often naming their own replacements? You have 1 minute for this question. Would you like me to repeat the question, or did you hear it?
I heard the question.
Okay, thank you.
That is a practice that Cleveland City Council has had, and the practice is that a member in good standing can nominate his or her replacement, and then the council normally accepts that. That person would then remain in office until such time as it's time to run for re-election. And given the fact that that has been the tradition in Cleveland for more than 100 years, it's very doubtful and unlikely that that's going to change.
Mr. Walker? I'll repeat the question. What is your opinion about council persons often naming their own replacements?
I don't support it. I think it's against the will of the people. In order to have good representation, we are a democratic society, and voters should be responsible for electing who they want to represent them. During this last go-round where we've had a judge appoint our representative, I wrote a letter to the judge that said I will not participate in this because I want to make sure that the voters have a say to elect whomever it is that they think they should serve them the best. So if I was elected, I wouldn't participate in appointment a replacement.
Thank you. Mr. Snowden?
Thank you. I'm sure that you all know, and every candidate up here knows, the petition process we've had to go through, the primary process that we go through, and then into November, the election process. And this process ensures that, one, you have the support of the people. Two, that you do everything necessary to be in competition or any other candidate or anything like that, so that you are the best fit for the position. So I do not support, and I think that it's a shame that anyone has the opportunity to pick who their successor will be. Thank you.
Mr. Shurn?
I think it's a slap in the face of the citizens of Cleveland because, as Eric mentioned, this should be a democratic process. And as someone else mentioned, this work is arduous running for city council, physically, mentally, and financially. So now you just appoint someone because it's the status or the political machine says, well, we're gonna appoint someone. I think it's totally unfair for the citizens and it's unfair for the candidates.
Mr. Shomo?
I disagree with it also, because I think that every councilman should have a mentoring program in their ward. I think that if we got 5 or 6 people, maybe of each ward, to have a debate and try to figure out who would be best for the position, I think that's the only way to do it, because we can't have a special election for them. But if we did this and see their qualifications like you're doing here right now, you can make an intelligent and good choice.
Mr. Mitchell?
I don't support the practice. Depending on the length of time left on the candidate's term, I believe that the council should refer back to the voters and replace a council person that's leaving abruptly with the next candidate that expressed the interest to run in the beginning. When you allow a council person to pick his own successor, it does avert the will of the people. And I would like to see a person that did express interest in the beginning of the process to be the replacement.
Ms. Gray?
Yes, first let me say this. Due to the situation that happened to Ward 4, and it's no blame of ours in Ward 4 and how they did the process, because we needed some representation in Ward 4, I did agree with that process because I also applied, because I have the ability and the experience and the know-how to do that position, so I applied as well. But moving forward, I believe in public comment. And public comment going to give the residents in all wards the ability to vote that council in. So going forward with that, I believe in that. Thank you.
The practice itself is concerning to me. We have seen it used in a couple of different ways around the city of Cleveland recently, and it has definitely become very questionable to me, as seemingly there is something, some other strategies behind often being able to appoint your successor. Ward 4 was in a very difficult situation where representation was necessary and needed. There were a lot of decisions that were being made throughout the city that were very important in a very urgent time. So I do understand the steps that we took and people within the city took to make sure that we had representation here in Ward 4. However, the process throughout the city has become very questionable, and we do need more public input.
Mr. Ekechukwu? Did I pronounce that correctly? I'm trying here.
I applaud you for trying. It's the thought that counts.
What is it, just so I can correct it?
It's Ekechukwu.
Ekechukwu.
You had it right. You had it right.
Okay, thank you.
Now, is that still counting into my minutes? Because I had to reply to that, right?
No, you're
Okay. First, I'd like to thank Ms. Gray for bringing up that thought. This is the importance of making sure that public comment is a possibility in Cleveland, because it prevents things like that from happening and gives residents the opportunity to speak up on issues such as these. I do not agree with such practices, but this is also the importance of making sure that we educate voters in Ward 4. We have a large portion of voters in our community who are not well versed in dealing with such things, and this is our responsibility to do so. And these sorts of situations sheds light on such things. Thanks, guys.
All right, so one of the questions that was submitted in advance, this one will only be directed towards certain candidates, was what led you to apply for the interim seat versus waiting for the election? We'll start with Mr. Ekechukwu.
I did not apply for the interim seat. They reached out, and so I decided to participate because I believe it was important. But I did see there were over 18 applicants to that interim seat, which again brings back that thought of making sure that we have qualified individuals applying for such positions and making sure that our community is involved in these processes.
Ms. Gray?
What led me to apply for that position is because I've been boots on the ground in Ward 4 for over 25 years. I thought it was necessary for me to step up because all what I have already done is to help the residents to move ahead, as I have assisted with housing, with Burger Rail Car. I have helped with repair, get homeowners have their homes repaired. I had help with getting buildings torn down and street lights put up. So it was imperative for someone with my skill set and grassroots background to step up to provide this service for our Ward 4 residents. Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
I applied for the position. We needed a person in place that would address some of the concerns of the ward. Someone that could start the process of rebuilding of our infrastructure. We need the person in place that will help reestablish our community development corporation. We needed to identify the properties that were owned, the assets that were owned by the community development corporation. And we needed head start on the next election cycle to get the proper tools in place so we could begin to rebuild our community and our ward.
Mr. Shomo?
Yes, I applied because I'm in the ward. I see the same things you see. I'm affected by the same things you're affected by. I see rodents running through, grass high and everything, and I felt that somebody had to do something. It's been mismanaged. I'm a manager. I can manage that. I figured I was the manager for 40 years and help other people start businesses and do other things. So it was a time that I wanted to help. I wanted to get it done. And it's still in that disarray right now. Still right there. But the person that they picked, they picked.
Mr. Willis?
Had the situation been that the chief judge of the common pleas court, the presiding judge, was not over the process, I would not have applied. In other words, had the council person stepped down and it been a situation where city council would have chosen the successor, I would not have applied. Judges step down all the time from the municipal court, and guess what? The governor ends up appointing somebody. And that judge is never representative of this community. I applied because we need to have capable leadership in this community. And the problems are not going to wait. By the way, we don't have capable community in Ward 4 even to this day.
Thank you. We will move on to the next question offered by the audience here. And we actually have two similar questions, so I'm going to combine them. So if you hear your question, you know that they're both being addressed. What is the highest priority facing Ward 4, and what can you do to help with that? And what progress will you make towards this priority? And we will start with Ms. Evans.
The highest priority in Ward 4 is engagement. For far too long, most Ward 4 residents have not had access to their representation. Their voices have not been heard. They have not been encouraged to use those voices. We work for people, and so at this point, we need the encouragement, the infrastructure, the work to continue to encourage people to raise their voices and identify their needs and be the center of this community.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to put the same question to Mr. Shurn. What is the highest priority for the advancement of Ward 4? What can you do to accomplish progress towards this priority?
I think the highest priority, which is kind of intertwined, is poverty. Because poverty leads to lack of economic opportunity, failed school system, poor housing, and it creates criminal elements, which we see in our communities today. So I think it's poverty.
Thank you. I'd like to pose the same question to Mr. Snowden.
Thank you. So I think that there are a multitude of issues that are important for us to address. But I think that one of the major issues is inspiring our citizens, inspiring our youth and giving them an opportunity to see what future is possible, inspiring our residents that are out of work to get the will to go back to work. A lot of our residents have gone through abuse at work or have gone through different things coming out of this pandemic. They need to be inspired again and be given the tools. So I think it's inspiration.
And then finally, Mr. Walker.
So the highest priority for me in this ward is poverty. According to the Center for Community Solutions, about 60% of our ward is near or in poverty. That affects a lot of things. It affects crime. Crime and poverty are connected. If we're going to start talking about dealing with crime, we must start talking about dealing with poverty. That's one essential thing we in the mayoral race. I want to hear them talk about what they're going to do about poverty. We discovered during this pandemic that the essential people that were needed, we gave them a kudos and said, we need you. But the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage is at $7.25 an hour. We got to do poverty.
Thank you. This next question will be directed towards Mr. Willis first, and it is, if you are not elected, how will you still remain involved in the community?
I am going to be elected, so that question is irrelevant.
Next, we'll go to Mr. Walker.
So I will continue to work in the community, working along with organizations, one of which who has put on this forum, dealing with neighbors, making sure that right now I'm in the process of dealing with blighted houses in the neighborhood, contacting the director of housing to get a lot of those houses either some attention or to be knocked down. So I will continue to be working in the neighborhood.
Thank you. And Mr. Ekechukwu.
Thank you. First,
first, I also want to address the issue earlier about safety, if that's okay. Great. Safety, I think, is the most important issue we have to deal with in our community. When I'm knocking on doors and I'm hearing people, mothers crying, they've lost children. These are the things that we have to make sure are put to rest once and for all. So safety to me is the most important issue. And dealing with Shaker Square, making sure that Shaker Square is back to what it used to be. And also, I've worked in the community with MyCom. I've also held free clinics, which I believe the health disparity in our community are the most important thing we have to deal with now. It cannot wait. And so if I do not gain the support of Ward 4 residents to become the next council person, I will still continue to work with MyCom and still hold free clinics in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to issue one more friendly reminder to the audience that this is a forum where we're asking questions and getting responses from the candidate members. This is not an opportunity to express opposition to a statement or support for a statement. And so that's with words, with clapping, with gestures, or with sounds. Will we please refrain from that? Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go into the next question that came from our audience today. This question will be directed towards Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Shomo, and Mr. Snowden. If you win, what would be the main city council committee you would want to be selected for, and why? Starting with Mr. Mitchell.
I would want to be selected for safety. My law enforcement background that would be a perfect fit for me. One thing that our residents have to come to understand is it's not the police department that gives you that sense of safety. It's your neighbors. It's the people that live next door to you. The police department's function is to support the community. When there's an issue, you call the police, we come out, we respond. We can be proactive in certain aspects of it, but in the real reality of it, your neighbors are the person that gives you that sense of safety. It was like that when I grew up. It needs to be like that again. Everything supports the community. The community is always out front. Your religious community, the educational department, it all supports the community.
Thank you. Mr. Shomo.
I would like to be on the committees with neighborhoods. One of the things I said I want to do in Ward 4 is put neighbor back in the word neighborhood and not just hood. I think that, you see people that don't speak to each other. It's not a healthy situation. And health and safety is always the first priority. Health and safety. That's it. We have people who don't have insurance for medical, and in these days and times, we need more people. The poverty, the housing, where they're living at. Housing would be one of the most important things to make sure everybody, have a decent housing, and and cut down the homelessness.
Mr. Snowden.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I had the question. Correct.
I can repeat it.
Okay.
If you win, what would be the main city council committee you would want to be selected for, and why?
Planning, development, and sustainability. I think that addressing housing shortages, which is under this committee, in addition to that, also economic planning. I think economic planning for Ward 4 is one of the most important things that we can do, just because we have to look future facing. We have to be able to utilize the space that we have to set up opportunities for our young entrepreneurs, for our young residents. We have to look at opportunities for tech to be taught to our youth, because that's the future. If we don't have anything that's future facing for our ward, we'll be left in the past. Thank you.
Our next question is a two-part question, and this will be directed towards Ms. Gray, Mr. Shurn, and Ms. Evans. We'll start with Mr. Shurn first. The future of Shaker Square is uncertain. What is your specific vision for Shaker Square, and how does it mesh with the Buckeye Project?
Thank you, that's a relevant question. I see a lot of people here that live on Shaker Square in that area. We all know that Shaker Square is going through something, and it needs to be revitalized. It needs local investors to revitalize that community. When I spoke to some of the business owners, one of their concerns was safety. It seemed like that's a repeated word around here today, safety. Making it family friendly again, Shaker Square, that would be a priority. I think someone spoke about community, how the community once was, where people could walk on Shaker Square and felt safe and sit out and have ice cream. So I want to make Shaker Square vital again. So that would be my priority as well. Thank you.
If the candidates could please stand when they're speaking, that way the people in the back will kind of know who it is that's speaking when they're taking the notes. Do you need me to repeat the question, Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Okay. What is the future of Shaker Square is uncertain. What is your specific vision for Shaker Square, and how does it mesh with the Buckeye Project?
Well, Shaker Square, right now there are two nonprofit organizations that are looking into, right now there's two nonprofit organizations that are looking into purchase Shaker Square. And once that process is completed, I will participate in whatever they decide to move forward. And I hope I'm able to bring in some plans that Buckeye is already working on. Plus, I'm working with the merchants on Buckeye right now. I am the liaison to Buckeye-owned properties. And I am helping to not have them gentrified out of Buckeye. And once that process is taken care of, the investors, the developers, and private owners come in and oversee Buckeye, and we get new business on Buckeye, then I'll be able to work with Shaker Square to see how we can bridge that gap. That gap. Thank you.
And Ms. Evans.
So there are people working on Shaker Square right now. One of the solutions that I do support is a public-private partnership. So that would require public investment as well as partnership with a nonprofit to be able to secure donors, individual donors from the community. So what that would do was make sure that Shaker Square gets the investment that's necessary to update what's needed, and as well make sure that we have the ability to have public say-so in the project. Connecting that with Buckeye is essential. We are all one neighborhood, and one of the big issues that I do believe from being in the community is that Buckeye residents need to make sure that they are heard in the process of revitalization. They also need to make sure they're heard in the process with Shaker Square.
Thank you. The next question from our audience will be directed towards Mr. Ekechukwu, Mr. Shomo, Mr. Walker, Ms. Evans, and Mr. Mitchell. If elected, how will you stay in touch with all constituents of Ward 4 on a regular basis?
These tables make me feel taller than I am. But these knees happen from walking too much. But one of the biggest things I also want to address are the question you asked earlier, how we would support Shaker Square. Before I decided to run for city council, I talked to neighbors, and then I went to talk to business owners on the square. Biggest thing we need to take care of is the safety issues that we are seeing starting to trickle into Shaker Square. We also need to support another individual I support is Brendan Krostowski. I had conversations with him, We need to make sure that we line up our Shaker Square with cameras, and also make sure we have foot patrol on Shaker Square. Now, going back to the question that you asked, could you repeat that for me, because I forgot?
How would you stay in touch with all constituents of Ward 4 on a regular basis?
Right. And one of the ways that I've used throughout this process was knocking on doors through social media. It's a tool that we must use, and we have the resources to do that now.
Thank you. Next. Well, we can go in order, so you don't have to run across the tables. Thank you. We'll go with Ms. Evans next.
Oh.
Would you like me to repeat the question, Ms. Evans?
One more time.
Okay. If elected, how will you stay in touch with all constituents of Ward 4 on a regular basis?
If elected? If elected?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, for the past couple of years, I have really been working very hard to stay very focused locally and create relationships with local residents. That will continue. We do have to use methods of connecting with residents that meet the residents where they are. So that will require a lot of groundwork. We would like to be able to use social media, and those electronic options will be available. But the truth of the matter is relationships, one-on-one, person-to-person contact is still required during this board. So I will continue to do that. If that's even recruiting people or having people within the administration that just continues to, I will do that personally and have other people continue to do that to encourage more participation.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Well, one thing I would do, I would have a office in the community. The community and the residents will have access. I would have a written time when the office would be occupied. And this is 2021, we have social media. We would have a newsletter. I would have a community website that I would set up. And the biggest thing that our residents need is information. And that's part of my platform, that I will provide accurate, truthful, and on-time information. We oftentimes get information after the fact. We need the information beforehand so we can make the appropriate steps, take the appropriate steps and measure if we need to make any type of adjustments. But a community office, very easy to do, and a lot of council people have a community office.
Thank you. Mr. Shomo?
I'm in the ward every day. My wife and I opened up a bakery on 123rd and 4th. We'd be here. My brother, I brought him in. He was the one that started Zanzibar. Chef Tony, that's my youngest brother. He has a restaurant on 139th and Kinsman, a barbecue restaurant, and I'm in the community. We'll have all the communications tools there. We'll have a website. We'll have people. I have an open door process. You can come in and talk to me at any time. I'm in the bakery every day.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Walker. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
So, how would I keep in touch? Ward meetings! We need ward meetings. When was the last time we had a ward meeting? Ward meetings monthly. So if I'm elected, I can talk to you all. That's the best way to get information out, as well as a newsletter that promotes what's going on in the ward, what's going on in the state, what's going on in the country. Not about me, not pictures of me doing stuff throughout the ward, but a newsletter that has substance to it, as well as get people in here that set this thing up and get the council with them so we can reach each part of the ward, so we can reach Shaker Square, so we can reach Mount Pleasant, so we can reach Buckeye. That's my plan.
Thank you. Our next question will be directed to Mr. Willis, Mr. Snowden, Mr. Shurn, and Ms. Gray. What do you need from the citizens of Ward 4 to help you be a successful councilperson? And we'll start with Mr. Willis.
Thank you. That is an outstanding question. What I need from the fine residents of Ward 4 to be an outstanding council person to serve your needs is for your involvement. So I need to be involved with you. That's the reason why when I did serve on the council for 12 years, I held a meeting every single Thursday at a library at 5 o'clock, every single Thursday for 12 years. Every single Saturday at 10 o'clock, I held a meeting at a church. And in between those meetings, I would go to any meeting, whether it was a block club, a larger organization. I intend to go to every meeting, whether I'm invited or not. And I will be walking the streets, going door to door, meeting with people. In order for me to serve you, I have to know you and know what your concerns are. And by the way, a council person's job is not simply dealing with issues as they come up, it's dealing with them beforehand.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. Mr. Snowden?
Thank you. So to follow up with the question, and also tied in with the previous question, part of community involvement involves being able to reach each citizen. More than social media and newsletters, we also have IVR systems. These are systems that send text messages out. Our school district uses it, and our city can use it. Our elderly citizens will be able to get voicemails when there's meetings that are coming up and things like that. And then as far as community involvement, one of the key pieces of policing deals with property management, being able to keep our property and streets clean, being able to keep our yards looking nice and things like that. And then also violence interrupters. So like Mr. Shurn's group that he works with and some of the other groups in our community that actually are able to have an ear into what's going on in our streets with our gangs and things like that.
Mr. Shurn?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What do you need from the citizens of Ward 4 to help you be a successful councilperson?
Well, they call me the people's councilman, so I have a people's agenda. When I went out and did my survey, I wanted to know what the people wanted. Because oftentimes when we have so-called political leadership, we're talking about what City Hall want to do. But I want to know what the people, the residents, because I'm nothing but a humble servant. So I will serve you. Then we have to have a relationship. So in order to have a relationship, we must relate to the people we want to work for. So I think we got to reconnect with the people, because when I go out there, they don't feel like, the only time we see our politicians most of the time is now. They're knocking on your doors, giving you phone calls. I will be accessible 24/7. I give you my personal number. Because I work in the field now where I'm serving people. I'm a social worker. So I know how to go out and get resources, and I'm fighting for the downtrodden already. So it's just connecting with the people and building relationships. Thank you.
And Ms. Gray? Sure. What do you need from the citizens of Ward 4 to help you be a successful councilperson?
What I need from the citizens of Ward 4 is civic participation. That's what I would need, for them to understand that I'm here to listen to their concerns and learn what they need. But me, myself, I've been boots on the ground for the last 25 years or more. And I go out knocking on the doors, just having long-term conversations with the residents in Ward 4. So I will have community meetings. I will have community meetings with the residents. I will set up a community board committee for us to have once a month at least, for us to understand what is needed in Ward 4.
Thank you. Our next question will be directed towards Mr. Snowden, Mr. Shurn, Mr. Ekechukwu, and Ms. Gray. And we'll start with you, Mr. Ekechukwu. What qualities make you the best candidate for councilperson?
Glad you asked that question. And I think That's the first. Glad you asked that question, ma'am.
Start him over again. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I think that's the most important question we must ask in this election for Ward 4, in the congressional election, and in the mayoral election as well. Qualifications is important. Before you apply for any job, you must have the qualifications. My background in environmental engineering helps me to take care of the climate issues we are seeing in not just the city of Cleveland, but in Ward 4 as well. We are always affected when air quality is an issue. My background as a doctor of pharmacy from Northeast Ohio Medical University will help me to take care of the health disparities we are seeing and will continue to see in this community, and also take care of the infant mortality rates that we are seeing in Cuyahoga County. My background with working with MyCom to reach our youth will help me to get our youth to be involved in our civic environment in this community.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Gray. Did you need me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay. What qualities make you the best candidate for councilperson?
What qualities make me the best for a councilperson is because I live in Ward 4 and I'm a resident first. And I engage with the residents in the ward to listen and to understand what they need. I have been a committed block watcher on my street alone. I'm a precinct committee woman, and I have been out here doing the work already. I have been assisting all the residents in Ward 4 and beyond my ward to help them out with anything that they have required me to do. I also have a business degree in business, and I can assist the residents who need to move forward to understand how to work in business as well. I will partner with, with the Women Business Center. I will partner with Jumpstart, and also will partner with 180 Entrepreneur, to help them to understand how to create their own business. And just being available to the resident as well for me to assist them in anything that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shurn, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
What qualities make you the best candidate for councilperson?
We have a lot of people that's education, but education don't create results. We've got 401 years of disparity. One thing you'll get from me, I'm not gonna come along just to get along when I'm elected. We got people at the table now, but we're not eating at the table. So if I get at the table, I'm just not gonna be there for the presence, for a position. We need resources in our community, and you need somebody that's gonna go downtown and say, hey, we need an urban development program. We need an agenda, and we need those resources, because oftentimes we equate our issues because it's property. You got downtown getting all the resources, but our community, Shaker Square, Buckeye, Mount Pleasant, Wood Hill, they're not getting the resources. So if I get a seat at the table, I'm not just gonna sit at the table. I'm not gonna be one of those candidates just to get along and sit in that office and say, but I got a position and a title. I'm gonna work for you.
Thank you. Mr. Snowden, did you need the question repeated?
Yes, please.
What qualities make you the best candidate for councilperson?
Okay. So one, I'm a servant. I'm a servant of the people. I'm a dean of engagement with CMSD, and I serve my students, I serve my community, and I serve the parents with wraparound services. One of the things that we need to do is have a vision for our future. We don't have a vision, which includes funding programs like our Youth Opportunities Unlimited, like programs like Cleveland Youth Landscaping, which teaches landscaping skills to our teen youngsters and gives them the entrepreneurial skills that they need to be able to fend them for themselves and start their own businesses. In addition to that, I have a vision for office spaces, a vision for housing, a vision for green spaces for our community, things that our community desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have come to our final question before we allow the candidates to provide their closing statements. We're going to start at this end, and all the candidates will have an opportunity to answer this question. For some years, Ward 4 has not been seen as a major player at City Hall. If you win, how will you engage with the new mayor and council to build support for Ward 4 neighborhoods? Yes, we'll start with Mr. Ekechukwu.
Thank you for that question, and I think it also points back to the comments made by Mr. Shurn. We say education doesn't help you to do the work on the ground. You don't wake up to learn how to write a grant, to talk to form relationships with individuals. That is what gets the job done. Forming relationships, and it takes you going through the process of education to learn to do those things, which our community needs. Now, as we talk about the importance of qualifications, we also need to make sure that these qualifications match the things that we need to do in this community. I lost track of the question, but I wanted to make that statement.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, do you need me to repeat the question?
It was engaged with the mayor and the rest of the city council?
Correct.
What I will say is I have begun that work. I've begun to establish those relationships. I have several relationships with some of the mayoral candidates. I have relationships with council people in this area, some of which have already been helping Ward 4 in some ways, as we have had absent leadership. But the fact is that engagement with other leaders is important. Being able to find and build bridges with those leaders and to connect the dots with shared resources. So we have ward lines that have been defined to make things easy and convenient for us in terms of counting population and deciding where we govern. But neighborhood boundaries are different. People's connections are different. So we have shared spaces, shared neighborhoods, and shared priorities.
Thank you. Ms. Gray?
Well, for myself, since I am already a precinct person in my ward, which is precinct 4F, I have already been engaging with the council people, and also when they had council meetings downtown every Monday, I was there, listening in on what was going on in all wards. How I will engage, I would definitely engage with participatory budgeting to make sure that they provide that recovery fund money into our community. I will engage with Citizens for Safe Community as well to make sure that they come in and help us provide, to reduce crime, and also I will make sure that they provide us with meetings for us to understand what we need to do in Ward 4. So that's how I will engage with the council and the new mayor to make sure that they do the due diligence in Ward 4.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. For some years, Ward 4 has not been seen as a major player at City Hall. If you win, how will you engage with the new mayor and council to build support for Ward 4 neighborhoods?
The mayor and the council president are citizens like any other citizen in the city of Cleveland. And their office should have, I would have access to their office. I understand the development plan. I understand how to attract resources. I understand how to work with other council people to generate resources and to motivate and to encourage revitalization. You have to really understand the process of City Hall. And there is a process. You have to go out and seek funding. You have to partnership with other council people in adjacent wards that are already having revitalization plans, so they can push those plans over into Ward 4. We have to change the way we think. We have to demand that we get certain resources returned to our ward.
Thank you. Mr. Shomo?
I'm already in contact with most of the employees, the candidates that are working for the whole city, trying to get everything together. I have a show, I do a show every Monday night with co-host. I'm a co-host of a Zoom show, Robert Vaughn's Let's Talk. And each one of those, except for two, have been on our show. We understand each other, we talk to each other, they have my numbers, I talk to them, they know what I want to do, they want to know what I want to do in Ward 4, and they, they figure that if we get this, if I'm elected, that they already know my plan, they already know that I'm not going to let them build that $212 million bridge over to Cleveland Stadium without us getting jobs or part of that money.
And Mr. Shurn?
That's a great question. One, no man is an island, so I would definitely collaborate with the present city council and the incoming mayor to set up an agenda that's effective for the people. What do I mean? We talk about urban development, so we need to, how they got it set up now, the wards, each individual wards get so much money. We need to build a pact where we can actually have a revitalization program. So we need the mayor, we need the city council, so that we can get 5 or 6 city council members and the mayor on board, and I believe we can have effective relationships. Because right now you got each individual ward, they receiving so much allotted money. We need a pact that's going to create an urban development program, and that's what I would do when I'm elected, November 2nd.
Mr. Snowden?
So first and foremost, I believe that we have to efficiently use the funds that we do have to help our ward out. I believe that we can always go and request things. We also need to look at what we have. We need to utilize partnerships with Shaker because it's on the borderline, especially for Shaker Square in the Buckeye area. We need to use the partnerships with those borderline councilmen that work with us, but we have to utilize the funds efficiently that we have. We have to use the funds efficiently for green spaces. We have to use the funds efficiently that we have for our roads so that we make ourselves viable candidates for investment from other partnerships and other organizations. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
So part of my plan would be, first, we gotta increase the voter participation in this ward. If we want to see change from City Hall, we've got to vote like we've never voted before. Look at Ward 1. Ward 1, Joe Jones's ward, has a brand new school, Kennedy. He has a brand new school, Whitney Young. They have a brand new rec center and a brand, I think Jameson, I'm not sure if it's in this ward or not, but it's a brand new school. If we don't increase our voter participation, we're never gonna get attention from City Hall. We've got to increase our voter participation. Second of all, prior to the pandemic, I was at City Hall every Monday. I need you all there with me. If we're there together in number and mass, City Hall will pay attention to what we're doing. One of my slogans is democracy by the people first. That means you all, and democracy for the people. If we're not involved, we'll never get attention from City Hall.
Mr. Willis?
I didn't know I was going to be able to answer this question. Arnold and Eric, you're exactly correct. You must demand the resources needed for Ward 4. Look, every council person must, first of all, take care of their ward. So you don't expect somebody to do something for Ward 4. Their job is to take care of their ward. So you must demand. Now, council is a co-equal branch of government. That's why finance is the most important committee on city council. Not any of the other ones. Finance. Every single piece of legislation goes through finance. Nothing can get done without going through finance. And if the mayor wants something, if the mayor is not going to cooperate, then he won't get anything passed.
Thank you. So that ends our formal question asking and answering session. We are now going to give you an opportunity. Every candidate will have 2 minutes for your closing statement. And we'll be starting with Mr. Willis. Thank you.
I want to thank you again for putting on this forum. I want to thank you for your involvement. As I said, I'm used to being involved with the community. Every Thursday, I would hold a meeting at the library, and I would have at least this many people here every single Thursday for 12 years. When I'm elected your councilman in Ward 4, I'm going to continue to do the same thing. And given the geography of Ward 4, it seems like I'm going to have to probably have 4 at least meetings every single week, because the ward goes all over the place. And people tend to stay close to home. And everybody is talking about social media. Wake up, because the residents of Ward 4 are not going to be involved through social media. Just like the charade that's going on right now with Buckeye Refresh. If you only have community meetings by Zoom, even people who are familiar with social media, you don't even have sufficient broadband to have an effective meeting. So I'm going to be out here on the street with Arnold, and I'm going to be working with everybody. You have some very good candidates that are here today, and you should be proud of each and every one of them. When I'm elected in Ward 4, I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to say a friendly reminder to refrain from expressing any opposition or agreement with anything a candidate says. We're here to listen and learn today. Next, Mr. Walker, for your closing statement.
All right, again, I just wanted to thank everybody for really coming out. You know, I'm really excited about this forum, about seeing you all. My platform, again, is about engaging people. One thing, when I was younger, my mom, she was this church lady who was a missionary, and one of her things was that she provided food to people less fortunate. She made us do things like take out garbage for this blind couple that used to live in our neighborhood. And so those are the things I want to employ in city government. Getting you guys involved, making sure that I'm listening and hearing to what you have to say, and then taking those ideas that you put forward down to City Hall to get change done. It's not going to happen without you. I think this office is not about me, it's not about power, it's not about status. It's about making sure that we're having transparency, government transparency. We've got to bring back integrity and honesty back to this board. That's my platform, that's what I'm charged and I will be charged to do. And I hope that you see that in me and vote for me on September 14th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Snowden, your closing statement.
I'm gonna use my educated voice. How's it going? So first and foremost, I want to say thank you all for coming out today. One of the things that I really want to stress is that if I am elected, I will make sure that we have investments that not only can our current residents benefit from, but our future residents, our children, can benefit from. Some of the things that we need to do in our ward is focus on the things that make our community safer, focus on the things that we can do with the power that we do have to bring our community closer together, utilizing IVR systems, like I mentioned before, where if a resident can't make it to a meeting, not only will they be able to view the live stream like they can here with this meeting, but they can also call in and hear. They can call in and listen and be a part of it. And this is things that we need, or things that we need to do so that we can reach all of our residents. Some of our residents will be tech savvy. Some of our residents will need, the old brick and mortar newsletters to be able to come out, but also transportation. So we are able to have a centralized meeting place where everyone in the ward could come then we'll be able to have continuous and continuity in our wards, in our meetings, so that everyone has a seat at the table, so that we don't have Mount Pleasant doing things that Shaker doesn't know about, so that we don't have Buckeye doing the thing that Mount Pleasant and Shaker don't know about, and Woodland as well. I vow to be someone who's committed to bringing our ward together, invested in our future, and inspiring our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shurn, your closing statement.
First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for coming out. And I also want to thank the people who set this up, AFRA. I am not going to promise you anything, because that's what's wrong with our ward now. People have been getting promises, and and there's nothing tangible that the people can see. But I will guarantee you one thing: when I'm elected, I will fight for you. I will fight for the resources that we need. And I didn't talk a lot about my education and things, but me and Eric worked together. I'm an SEIU member. We were co-endorsed by the union. I also was at those meetings on Mondays down at City Hall. We're trying to get now where the people can actually speak at City Hall, so you can have a voice. So you will have a voice when I'm elected. So vote September the 14th. If you want someone who's genuinely concerned, vote for Arnold Shurn. Stop voting for a name, stop voting for the same, vote for Arnold Shurn if you want real change.
Thank you. Mr. Shomo, your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate everything and everybody, especially our co-candidates. You know, if they took on this position to get in here and fight and express what is their solutions to the different problems. Our ward has a lot of problems, and each one of them could take about 10 apiece and get it done. You know, I'm a great manager, and I have successful children. I have children that are doctors and nurse practitioners, business owners, and the thing is that we can do this all throughout. I'm a simple man. I have raised up by my mother, single parent, and she taught me a lot of things, and she worked with I started in politics, helping out Mayor Whalen, I don't know if y'all know her, Berthena Palmer, the Stokes brothers, and go all the way up to Marshall Fudge. You know, I'm always been in the background helping write. I was the one that helped Stephanie Tubbs Jones write the second chance act. I did a lot of work on that. She was going to pay me. I told her just give me an autographed copy of it, and that's what I have. So all these people, all these candidates, well qualified, and I just hope that y'all pick the right one. I'll be there no matter what.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, your closing statement.
I would like to, first I would like to thank the panel, and I would like to thank the audience and the candidates. The next councilman for Ward 4 has to have, or councilwoman, has to have a plan. I have a vision, I have a plan, I have a platform. We need a council person that is not afraid to speak truth to power. I'm retired. I have a vision for Ward 4. I would like to reestablish our community development corporation. I would like to establish workshops and programs for our rec centers. Our rec centers are like the hub of the community. We need to create pathways for success for our young people. We have to stop feeding the court system, the criminal justice system, and more importantly, the medical examiner office. I can be that conduit between the community and the police department. I support police reform. It can only improve the relationship between the community and the police department. I'm a lifetime Ward 4 resident. It has been very instrumental in my life. It has allowed me to achieve some things that I never thought I would. I'm not a highly educated person, but it taught me responsibility, determination, and how to make good choices. And we need that example in our next council person.
Thank you. Ms. Gray, your closing statement.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for coming. And I want to say one thing first. Civil participation is vital to our democracy. The people in Ward 4 and all over already have the power. We just know how to utilize it. For myself, being a precinct committee person, in my ward, we have already worked with the city of Cleveland, tearing down buildings, work with traffic, putting up street lights, and also working with Birkendale Park, repairing homes, and putting roofs on people's houses as well. Also, engaging with the youth, finding them jobs in our community. But we also need to understand that I am the proven candidate because I'm already doing the work, and I will continue to do the work for the residents in Ward 4. Give you a slight example. The other morning, a resident came to me and said, "Ms. Gray, my gas is going to shut off. How can you help me?" Of course, I'm not going to pay the bill, firstly. Secondly, how do you want me to help you? Well, I need to get on heat. I'll pick you up at 7 o'clock in the morning, take you down to the Asia Plaza, to Cleveland Housing Network. I took him there, he signed up for heat, took him back home. I'm not gonna do that often, but he was desperate for help. So stepping out of my box and what I have been doing for years, boots on the ground, helping everyone, that's what I do. Also going forward, we need to have a new direction with a new councilwoman in the seat. We don't need to keep on having men in the seat that have not brought us to the point, where we need to be. So I'm looking forward for your vote so I can become your first councilwoman in Ward 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, your closing statement.
I try not to use my teacher voice anymore, so I'll use the microphone. But I want to first of all just say thank you. Thank you to everybody in the room. Thank you to all of our hosts. Thank you to everybody watching. I just really want to express how honored I am to be here today, even to have made it this far, and how much of a responsibility that is in itself. So please know that I take this opportunity, I take the idea of being your city council person very seriously. I've always worked in the best interest of others, whether it has been just my family, where community starts, to the greater community, the faith community, my faith community, the children I've taught. I will continue to do that as council person. I ask each and every one of you to take a survey of the land as it is now. Look at each and every one of these candidates and determine what they are doing, where they are. And I'm sure you can make a good assessment as to what they will look like in office. I am asking everybody for their vote. First of all, in this primary election coming up on September 14th. And just once again, I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ekechukwu, your closing statement.
We made it, everyone. First, I'd like to thank all of the residents who showed up here today. It brings me great joy just to see everyone here today truly caring for the direction our community will be headed. I also want to thank everyone that's online watching. And I also want to thank everyone that's been involved in bringing this day to fruition. I really thank you all. I hope everyone who came to this event today or are watching left this event knowing who the right candidate is. Again, my name is Cecil Ekechukwu. I've been in this community since I was 8 years old. I believe I am the only qualified and experienced candidate to lead Ward 4 into the future. A future where health disparities are addressed, infant mortality is addressed, safety is addressed, and youth engagement is addressed. But we cannot have youth engagement without youth representation. Remember that. So I ask you, as you go out to vote, remember these words and vote Cecil Ekechukwu. To the residents in Larchmere, to the residents on Union Avenue on fixed income, worried about the future of this community, I tell you, change is on the way. Change is on the way. Change is on the way. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, I would like to turn it back over to Michelle Jackson for our closing. Everybody give yourselves a hand. Engagement is, we've heard this from everybody on here, engagement, that you all came out during COVID to learn more about people asking for your vote is really a tremendous thing. I want to thank the candidates so much. I learned a lot. I knew some of you, but I really hadn't heard you in this format. Thank you so much for coming out. I want to give big props to our committee. We had a wonderful group of people. We had the crew, we had the Alphas, we had the Zetas, we had League of Women Voters, and we had Reclaim Ward 4. And together we all have that commitment to uplifting communities by giving them a voice and ballot box. I think we heard it here, that I very well said, that it's not going to change unless our votes are counted. It's not going to change. So the politicians, if you have money, you can pay them. They'll listen. If you don't, you got the ballot box. So thank you guys for listening. I think, is the league going to put out a guide for the council members?
Yes.
Okay, so the League of Women Voters will be doing, I'm sorry?
Vote 411, plus the case.
Vote 411 is the League of Women Voters website where you can go to get information. They do interviews with the candidates and they all just send a survey asking the same questions. You'll learn more than you learn here even. They'll be putting that out at some point. So make sure that you're really paying attention to what people are saying, what they are doing, what they have done, and what they say they're going to do. And with that, I want to bring up Mr. Lester Holmes, who's president of the Alpha by Alpha DAL chapter, which is hosting this event. Thank you.
On behalf of the, well, first of all, I want the brothers, all the standing brothers Alpha Alpha, who are here today to help us out with everything. So I wanted to give them a round of applause. And thank you, brothers, for their support as we all work together to put on this event. So welcome to our building. We've been in this community now for about 4 years, 5 years with the building open. And we are here to serve the community. This is just one facet of the way that we do serve. While everyone is here, I'm proud to announce that last month, we began our food pantry. So every first Wednesday of the month, come, get some food. If you know someone who needs some food, please tell them about it. We're here from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. every single first Wednesday. No questions asked, you get a bag. We understand things are going on. We understand we're still dealing with COVID. We're still dealing with poverty, unemployment, what have you. You need some food, you come here, you get a bag. Again, I just want to thank the committee for putting this great event together, and also thank the candidates. Good luck to you all, and Cleveland needs you. We need you. Our community needs you. So we certainly are rooting for you and hope that you're up to the task of turning this great city around. So thank you everyone for coming, and have a great day.
One thing I forgot to mention, there's candidate literature on the back Then grab a sandwich.
All right. Good to see you. Congratulations to you all.
Go on, let's go here.